It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. This is my takeout. Emil Amok's takeout, my takes on all things considerable. Welcome. If you said, hey, I heard about this thing you do, it's free, it's live, it's like an old timey talk radio show. You know, you just put it on and then you go about your business. You don't have to look at it if you don't want. I mean, you can. If you have YouTube at Emil Amok1 or on Twitter at Emil Amok or Facebook at fb.com/EmilGuillermo.media. I mean, you could look at it. I don't mind if you gawk or stare, but it's an old timey talk radio. We talk about the news right here, Monday through Friday. If not live, then definitely on tape and all those different places. You tune in and say, well, what does Emil think? Or WDAAAT, what does an Asian American think? Because they rarely ask us. You know that. We're not in the sample size. They never include us. And so here we are, and there's a lot of news to talk about. I'm going to talk about the Trump immunity. No immunity for Trump, which is great. And now I want to know, can we get immunity from him? How do you do that? Well, if you're in Nevada, you can vote to get immunity from Trump by saying I know he's on the ballot. Actually, it's the Nevada primary and caucus today. And there's going to be a primary and there's going to be a caucus. And so I don't know how the RNC is going to work that out. But if you're voting in Nevada today, you can vote for immunity from Trump by not voting for him, by making sure he's not the nominee. And of course, if you're a Democrat, you can vote in the Democratic side of things and just vote for the strongest possible candidate. Right now, there's only one. I mean, look, I can't say I love all the Democratic candidates because each one has a thing that I don't like. I'm talking about those also rants too. I love Marianne Williamson. I don't know if she can be president, if enough people will vote her in, but we need someone with that kind of sensibility in there. And so we have Joe Biden, who has probably the best chance if everyone who is allied and says, yes, we want immunity from Trump. I think that's Joe Biden's the best candidate for that. But the big news is Trump gets no immunity from prosecution. He can be prosecuted. You'll recall that we've been talking about that over the last couple of weeks, especially when Judge Florence Pan asked him the question about SEAL Team 6 and asked his lawyer, if a president were to say, have SEAL Team 6 assassinate someone, could he do that? Could he get away with that? I mean, that was how absurd the idea that a president would have immunity from the actions that were committed while he was president. So now the circuit court has come back and said, yes, this is our decision. Trump can be prosecuted. He does not have immunity. And Trump he has until next Monday to appeal to the Supreme Court. Now, if it goes to the Supreme Court, a lot of things can happen. I mean, it could decide it all. If the Supreme Court says, yes, we're going to hear it, they can be definitive, but I don't know if they want to do that. I mean, I've been listening to all the court watchers make their predictions, saying they only need 4 people to say, yeah, we'll hear the case. But more than likely, the court may say, yeah, we like the lower court. We like the lower court to handle this. We're not going to step into it now. We'll see. The definitive judges or justices who have an appetite for this are definitely Thomas and Alito. I mean, the real far right. But now the juniors on the court, Kavanaugh and Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett, would one of them or two of them break away? I think Justice Roberts probably wouldn't. Don't know about Kavanaugh, but they are mostly conservative. So you see, we don't know. But if they do take it, it could mean that we could have a decision. We could have a trial date, and we could have possibly a conviction of Donald Trump. And we know this is what people are worried about, because if there is a conviction, most people in the polls who are for Donald Trump tend to get a little mushy and switch when there's a conviction. They say, well, maybe that's going to do it. That's going to turn us around. That's going to keep us from voting for Trump. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I just think that we got to watch that. Next Monday will be the key date. Now, if you're saying, Emil, I know we got this decision, and is there one thing you could read to us, Emil? Well, from the United States Court of Appeals, this is the decision decided today on the 6th of February, number 233228, United States of America appellee versus Donald J. Trump appellant. And this is, I think, all you really need. The first couple of pages. The per curiam. This is a unanimous decision signed by Judges Henderson, Childs, and Pan. Two of them were Biden judges. One was a Bush judge. Pan and Henderson, I believe, were Biden appointees. But here's the per curiam filing. Donald J. Trump was elected the 45th president of the United States on November 8th, 2016. Just a little background. He was sworn into office at noon on January 20th, 2017. And he served until his term expired at noon on January 20th, 2021. At that moment, President Trump became former President Trump, and his successor, Joseph R. Biden, became president and began his own four-year term. Although this sequence is set by the Constitution, it did not proceed peacefully. Indeed, from Election Day 2020 forward, the government alleges that President Trump denied that he had lost his bid for a second term and challenged the election results through litigation, pressure on state and federal officers, the organization of an alternate slate of electors, and other means. Oh, there they really kind of lay it out. Look at all the things he did. And first of all, it was not peaceably. It did not proceed peaceably. And then look at all the things that Trump threw in the way. Trump denied that he had lost his bid for a second term and challenged the results through litigation, pressure on state and federal officials, the organization of an alternate slate of electors, and other means. His alleged interference in the constitutionally prescribed sequence culminated with a Washington, D.C. rally held on January 6, 2021, the day set by the Electoral Count Act, for the Congress to meet in joint session to certify the election results. The rally, headlined by President Trump, resulted in a march of thousands to the Capitol and the violent breach of the Capitol building. Mind you, it says the rally, headlined by President Trump, resulted in a march of thousands to the Capitol and the violent breach of the Capitol building. The breach delayed the congressional proceedings for several hours. And it was not until the early morning of January 7th that the 2020 presidential election results were certified, naming Joseph R. Biden as the soon-to-be 46th president. Since then, and this is important, hundreds of people who breached the Capitol on January 6, 2021 have been prosecuted and imprisoned. Hundreds of people. And on August 1st, 2023, in Washington, D.C., former President Trump was charged in a 4-count indictment as a result of his actions challenging the election results and interfering with the sequence set forth in the Constitution for the transfer of power from one president to the next. Once again, I'm reading from the actual decision by the appellate court. Former President Trump moved to dismiss the indictment, and the district court denied his motion. Today, we affirm the denial. This is the appellate court saying Trump moved to dismiss. The district court denied it. He went to the appellate court. That's who we are. We affirm the denial. And this is maybe the thing you need to know. This is the one thing that's going to get quoted all day until Monday, until Trump decides that he is going to go forward and do whatever he chooses to do with the Supreme Court. For the purpose of this criminal case, former President Trump has become citizen Trump with all of the defenses of any other criminal defendant. But any executive immunity that may have protected him while he served as president no longer protects him against this prosecution. And that's what you need to know. That's the summary from the appellate court issued today, 57-pager. I mean, you could read all 57 pages if you want to get into the nuts and bolts, but here you have it. Lays it out when Trump was elected until he was no longer, until his term expired, when Joe Biden was to be president, and then what Trump did to prevent this whole thing from going through peaceably. He threw all these obstacles in the way, one monkey wrench after the other, denying that he had lost his bid for a second term. He held this rally that he was a headliner, resulted in a march of thousands. They breached the Capitol, and it delayed the congressional proceedings for several hours, but they did happen. Since then, hundreds of people who breached the Capitol have been prosecuted and imprisoned for their actions on January 6, 2021. Then, on August 1st, 2023, last year, President Trump charged in a 4-count indictment as a result of his actions challenging the election results and interfering with the sequence set forth. And in return, the former president, moved to dismiss that indictment. A district court denied the motion, and today the appellate court affirmed. Those are the relevant actions, or the relevant sequence of events. And the appellate court's punchline was this last graph. For the purpose of this criminal case, former President Trump has become citizen Trump. He is citizen Trump with all of the defenses of any other criminal defendant, but any executive immunity that may have protected him while he served as president no longer protects him against this prosecution. So there, I know a lot of people said, "Oh, we got this in the news, but what do we read, Emil?" Well, I mean, I just read you the most important thing, the first page of that appellate decision. Of course, Trump has not responded yet. Now, we have an Asian American oriented show because one of the subtitles is WDAAT, what does an Asian American think? And there is the Asian American angle here. Not that we're all under the umbrella, covered by whatever Trump does, whatever the courts and justices and, it all applies to us, of course. But Stephen Chung is the Asian American who acts as the Trump campaign spokesman. And he's the one who's been out public for Trump. And Stephen Chung essentially parrots what Trump says on Trump's social media. He says, quote, "If immunity is not granted to a president, every future president who leaves office will be immediately indicted by the opposing party." Well, yeah, if we're going to play politics like it's, preschool and a bunch of toddlers are like bickering at each other, if we play it that way, yes. But if we go for the greatest good and we go for the highest purpose and good of our democracy, then certainly we won't be acting that way. Immediately, I mean, this is what he's saying. If immunity is not granted to a president, every future president who leaves office will be immediately indicted by the opposing party. Why is it that that's never happened before? Why is it has only happened while Trump is president? And then, ergo, the logic is, without complete immunity, a president of the United States would not be able to function properly. This has never been an issue with any president in the history of the United States that I can think of. Only with Trump, and only with these Trumpian values where you fight tooth and nail, there's no compromise, and there's no sense of good of the country, no sense of this is our democracy. It's only that selfish, craven sense of, hey, I'm Donald Trump. It's my country. It's my presidency. They're my documents. They're my papers. What are you doing with them? It's only happened to Trump. The extreme egomania of Trump. So, unfortunately, they got Stephen Chung, an Asian American guy. Trump loves these hair compromised Asian Americans to be his body men, his right wing guys. Stephen Chung, Trump campaign spokesman. He's the spokesman. He came out essentially and issued that statement saying the court said no immunity. The appellate court said no immunity for Trump. And Chung said, hey, if immunity is not granted to a president, every future president who leaves office will be immediately indicted by the opposing party, which is only true if the Trump MAGA mental virus continues. If the Trump MAGA mental virus does not continue, then we'll have the peaceful, the ongoing, I just blanked out on the word. But, the next administration will come on, life will go on in our great democracy. That's the way it's supposed to work. But not after we've had someone like a Trump who's going to change all these things or wants to change all these things. Now, other analysts have said, look, the rest of the court's document is like an ode to the rule of law. Without this stand that no one is above the law, that there is a separation of powers, that there are checks and balances. Without that sense going forward, if you give the president immunity for everything he does, then there's no accountability for something that he may have done, he or she may have done, that deserves scrutiny. So that's the situation with the immunity case. Trump has lost, and he has until Monday to seek the Supreme Court's eyes on this case, and they can say no, and they can kick it back down to the lower court. But it could have an effect on Trump. Trump is, of course, trying to raise money off this, even now. I don't know if you've gotten emails from the Trump camp, but Trump is trying to say that what an aberration of the Constitution if I, as a former president, cannot have complete and total immunity. So he's trying to just turn the argument on its head. It's a clash that does not make sense, but it is a clash. And we'll see how people's views of democracy, the rule of law, how they can change, or how they remain firm and strong despite pronouncements from Trump. Because Trump, the thing about Trump, he can make you feel like, hey, I'm doing the right thing. I mean, because they're coming after me, they're going to come after you, they're going to come after all of us, and we can't have that. That's the Constitution. I mean, it sounds perfectly it's not. So we're going to have to guard against that. Anyway, so that was the big news today. I mean, there are other things in the news today. Or it's just other things I wanted to talk about today. I guess this was in the news yesterday. Facebook turned 20 years old. Imagine. I mean, here we are. We're sending this out on Facebook as well as YouTube. And 20 years old. Mark Zuckerberg isn't at even his 25th reunion at Harvard. And that's the reunion where that's where they go after your checkbook and say, you got to give up to the school. And Facebook is worth, what, $1 trillion market value? So he's got a few more years left. But I was telling this story that when I was just a young student there was a thing called the Facebook. In fact, it was a real book. It was a red covered book or crimson colored book. And you'd look at it and you'd see every of the gender to which you are attracted. I don't want to presume, male, female, but you would look at them and you would say, God, I'd want to hook up with those people, but they won't want to hook up with me. I mean, you would say that. Of course, you wouldn't use that language, decades ago, but we're looking at that picture. And in my case, it was like I was looking at a picture. I think the standard at the time was a Farrah Fawcett poster. And you would think, oh, God, how will I ever meet that girl from outside of Cos Cobb? Because most of them are for the New England area, right? And that's how I knew Facebook. I knew it as a book. I didn't know it would be worth $1 trillion at some point in my life. I didn't know it would be the bane of existence. I didn't know it would be the thing, the social media king. So anyway, that's why I say, I went to Harvard, but I'm not that smart. I didn't know. And now it's 20. But other people weren't that smart about Facebook. About Facebook, some people were saying, I don't know how Facebook's going to make any money. How are they going to make any money at all? Oh, they were saying this in the 90s, 2000s. Oh, I don't know how Facebook can make money. I wouldn't want to bet on Facebook. Oh my God, what a loser. What a gamble. Oh, there's some people who wish they gambled. Some people now. Okay, a couple other things before we I want to cut these Emil Amok takeouts shorter. I saw Curb Your Enthusiasm when it came out Sunday. Man, what a funny show. What a funny show. I mean, you watch certain things. You watch stand-ups, you watch some sitcoms, you watch some things, and, it's rare to get a laugh. And if you're looking for laughs, I just know that, as a performer who in my theater shows, I played for narrative, but I also played for laughs. And when I don't get any laughs, I feel weird. But, you forget sometimes what a natural laugh feels like, what it's like to, and then you have to say, okay, well, how do I react to certain things? And I'll watch stand-up after stand-up, and some people make me laugh and some people don't. And a lot of it has to do with your mood and where you are. But I watched Curb Your Enthusiasm, season 12, episode 1. My God, it was funny from the start. The woman singing the J.G. Wentworth theme. 1-800, cash now. 877 cash now. I mean, that was funny. I mean, I guess if you're of a certain demographic and you see the ads for J.G. Wentworth, I mean, you don't have to be the same age as Larry David or Tracy Ullman, but it was funny. But the funniest bit comes within the first 5 minutes of Curb, and you're just going to have to see it. And I just bust a gut. And I hadn't laughed that hard in at least a couple weeks. I mean, I laugh at some things that people say. I laugh at some things I see comedians say. I mostly just nod with approval. But I had never, like I said, I can't remember the last time I laughed as hard as I did in the first 5 minutes of Curb Your Enthusiasm. So there, go see the show. I think you get 10 episodes now in season 12. This is the last one. And actually, at random, I just go and pick a random Curb, and it's funny, same thing. So, man, I mean, I wasn't a regular viewer of Curb. I don't know if it was because my HBO subscription lapsed or something, or I just got out of the habit of watching it. But I'd watch it every now and then. But on Sunday, my God, it was just hilarious. Hilarious. Happy to say a friend of mine is in the credits as a consulting producer, which, it's cool. He was a funny guy in college. But, I look forward to the end. Can't imagine what the end's going to be like. They're only releasing one by one. I haven't seen, unlike the critics who've seen maybe 8 or 9 episodes, I've only seen the one. But I can wholeheartedly recommend Curb Your Enthusiasm if you're looking for a Billy Buster. All right. A couple other things just want to talk about and touch on. Uh, man, did you see where CNN is shaking up the morning lineup? I mean, I like Poppy Harlow. I like Phil Mattingly. And I actually like them better once once they got rid of Don Lemon, once they got rid not get rid of. I like Caitlin Collins, but once they moved her off into the evenings and it was just Poppy Harlow and Phil Mattingly, I thought, oh, this is great. They've settled in. This is a good morning show. Of course, do you watch CNN instead of Today, CBS, ABC? Do you watch it instead of all the other shows? I guess not. The ratings were terrible. Excuse me. They changed the lineup again, and they're doing some funny things here. Casey Hunt's going to anchor the 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. slot. So she becomes the new host of CNN This Morning. I like Casey Hunt. I liked her at MSNBC, but she's going to have to do it herself. Maybe it's a financial move. I don't know. Poppy Harlow is probably making decent dollars. Phil Mattingly probably not. But Poppy Harlow is popular, I thought. But the new guy at CNN, this guy Mark Thompson, is saying, all right, they're out. We're going to shake up things in the morning. And look, I've been in broadcasting. I know what it's like. It's no good. No fun. No fun. Stiff upper lip. Thompson's going to meet with Poppy Harlow and Phil Mattingly, and they're going to figure out what they're going to do. You know, I mean, there's a lot of people at CNN because of the Chris Lick shakeup and other things that have happened. You don't see them as often. Allison Camerata, don't see her as often. But I'm sure they'll find places for these old CNN hands. You know, I like CNN. I know a lot of people say that CNN has been, you know, maybe more conservative than that. No, I don't think that's true. I think they do have some conservatives on, but I don't see them as a conservative brand like Fox. I see them more moderate, and they have a certain amount of people on the left and a certain amount of people on the right. I like to go to CNN when I want just the news, because you know when it's news and you know when it's opinion. On Fox, you don't know. And on MSNBC, generally, their opinion. Because if you want the news, you'd go to NBC. So MSNBC has its own niche, very opinion oriented. I love watching MSNBC also. Specific shows. I like to watch Lawrence. But anyway, it's important. And here's the thing. If you talk about news and, you know, if you're concerned, you always have to have at least 4 or 5 news sources. You can't just watch one. Like, for example, I'll watch Fox. And I can't for a long time, maybe, you know, a few minutes. But, you know, I'll go to conservative sources on the web. I'll go to conservative sources in terms of print media. I'm reading from the Wall Street Journal today. I mean, the thing is, the Wall Street Journal, news-wise, I think, you know, it's pretty objective. The opinion page, crap. So that's happening in the news. Oh, one last thing. The Warriors, the Golden State Warriors won last night. They beat the Brooklyn Nets. And a big story's out about how they benched Klay Thompson. And some commentators are sad about the benching of Klay Thompson. Here's the thing that's tough about that. And if you're one of those folks who want to talk meritocracy, well, if you talk meritocracy, this is a meritocracy. Sports is a meritocracy. I am all for affirmative action in many things. I want to see me in all these different places. And sometimes affirmative action is the only way that I'm going to get there. I agree. So I agree with affirmative action policies with just about everything except sports. As much as I'd like to be center court, Madison Square Garden, Warriors playing the Knicks, I know I have no chance making an NBA team because I'm not good enough. I think. I mean, if we played exponent ball, maybe, but no, basketball was never my game. But that's all right. Sports should be a meritocracy. I accept that. And that's why, as much as I like Klay Thompson and as much as I feel bad that he was benched, sports is a meritocracy. And I don't get all nostalgic or saddened by the fact that he's in decline, although I wish him nothing but the best. I want him to get better. I'm rooting for him to be part of the winning combination for the Warriors. But if he's not playing well, what are you going to do? They're going to have to bench him, trade him, kick him out, something. I mean, and it's a mental thing. I mean, he's still young. He's recovered, feeling good, recovered from his big injuries, but he's feeling not so great mentally, he says. And it is a mental game. It's like, I guess, golf and the yips, the putting. But things are a chore. It's not fun. He's not as good. He's being benched. Do we feel sad? Yeah, for a second. But remember, sports is a meritocracy. If you want a meritocracy, meritocracy should exist in sports, but not in other things where equal opportunity has a value. Not in other things where you have an all-white institution and by rights, things should be diversified within that all-white institution. And it has to do with how do you belong? What is a way that you belong within that all-white institution? That you bring whatever it is that you bring that is so meritocratic. I think that's the point. That it's not just you're meritorious because of grades or test scores, or you bring something important. That's why when you look at other things in society where there's affirmative action, you say, yeah, we need affirmative action there. Because there's other reasons why people are being held down or held back, or why it's not a reflection of our great diversity. Basketball and sports, that's another thing. And that's a straight meritocracy. And if you say, well, Emil, come on. Maybe there aren't more Filipinos in the NBA because they don't get the opportunity in the junior leagues or in high school or, growing up. Maybe they don't. I think the reason why the Filipinos aren't in there or there aren't as many Asian players is because maybe it's, look, I'm taller than both my parents, so it was going to take a generation or two before we had the height. But this is why when I see a story like the Klay Thompson story, it reminds me that, there is good meritocracy and there's bad meritocracy. And sports is the good meritocracy. You want the best players. And that's where we should focus, where meritocracy belongs. Because on the other things where it relies on, it's opportunity or the lack thereof, I think that's where you can like lower the volume on meritocracy and raise the volume on affirmative action and do something to allow for more diversity. I mean, that's how it appears to me. Anyway, I think that's true. But I have to admit the Klay Thompson story, seeing that today, made me think about meritocracy. All right, I think that's it. Oh, the Super Bowl coming up. People talking about Taylor Swift because she's going out with Travis Kelce and everyone. What's your favorite Taylor Swift song? I don't even have a favorite one. I mean, there's one that pops in my head. Next time I'll figure out the name for it. I'll say, oh yeah, I got a favorite Swift song. I do have a favorite Olivia Rodrigo song. But I think the stories that I've seen about the Super Bowl and Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, and why the MAGA types are all like upset, thinking that it's some kind of conspiracy. That I think the conspiracy is they all want to come out in halftime and announce for Joe Biden or something. I mean, it's crazy. I think what we're seeing happen, and it was explained in a CNN article I was reading, or some guy from the Atlantic was kibitzing with another guy and said, this is because this is the way MAGA guys think. And it dovetails with what I was talking about in the past, or what I've talked about, the idea of talk show values. I mean, Donald Trump is a talk show host. And as a talk show guy, I understand talk show values. You always want to alienate the audience. You always want to, by alienate, I mean polarize. And when you polarize, you divide the groups into people who really like you and people who really don't. Or people who really like an issue and people really don't. And that way you get clear-cut divisions of people, and you know who your tribe is. Which is helpful if you're a talk show host. And then you just keep separating yourself from the people who aren't your tribe. You alienate them, you isolate them, you make them hate you. You do the opposite. You're this super contrarian, and you get these silly kind of gambits like, oh, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are part of some kind of Biden playing in the Super Bowl, which is outrageous, right? But it'll outrage the MAGA types. It'll outrage the liberal to left crowd. And it will keep people talking about your extreme MAGA contrarian position. That's how you build your audience. Sick, isn't it? But I mean, that's what Trump is trying to do in politics. I wish it weren't so. I wish I didn't know about this firsthand from the talk show wars that I've been a part of. But this is how it's done. All right, that's it for me today. Hey, look, thank you for being part of the show. Thank you for listening. I know you have a choice. Just like the airlines say, I know you have a choice of airlines. You can fly the airline that has door bolts, or you can fly the airline that doesn't. Thank you. Thank you for choosing us. We're here Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, live. We're on tape on YouTube at Emil Amok 1, on FB, facebook.com/EmilGuillermo.media, on Twitter at Emil Amok. Contact me at amok.com. Hey, I'm doing some shows. This show, there's some inadvertent punchlines, but for the most part, it's just a radio talk show. But if you would like to see my show, my one-man show, I'm at the Rogue Festival in Fresno, March 2nd at 2 p.m. Saturday, March 2nd at 2. Saturday, March 2nd at 9:30 p.m. Oh, what a long night in Fresno. Sunday, March 3rd at 2 p.m. Boy, who scheduled me for that? Thursday, March 7th at 5:30 p.m. And Saturday, March 9th at 5 p.m. God, am I going to survive that? That's at the Rogue Festival, March 2nd through March 9th. It's at the Lotus Room. Go to roguefestival.org. Okay. Also, I'm performing in New York April 5th, April 8th, April 13th, 19th, and 21st at the New York City Fringe. I'll let you know where to get tickets there. And also Orlando in May. So check out all those shows. And I have two other things to mention. I'll mention closer to the occurrence, the occasions. All right, thank you for joining me. I just love talking and being here with you. We do a little meditation to calm us down and make sure we're of right mind when we go amok. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time. Mahal Kita.